Hi everyone, I'm Catherine Hahn. Life sure knows how to throw some unexpected challenges at us, doesn't it? Maybe sharing my story can help someone else dealing with family drama. Are you really going to do that here? Tyler, my brother-in-law, says, giving me his signature judgmental look. I'm at the weekly family dinner, quietly checking my blood sugar, like I always do. I've been managing type 1 diabetes since I was 9 years old, but ever since I married Patrick last year, Tyler has made it his mission to treat my condition like it's a Broadway performance. Tyler, she needs to do this, Patrick says, his voice already heavy with exhaustion. I know he means well, but I can hear how drained he is. Constantly defending me is wearing him down. Tyler shrugs, completely dismissive. I just think it's a bit dramatic. My friend's cousin has diabetes, and she gets by just fine without making it everyone else's problem. I bite my tongue and focus on adjusting my insulin pump, deciding it's not worth the argument. 11 years in marketing management have taught me one thing. You don't have to fight every battle, especially with people who don't want to understand. My sister Jessica, on the other hand, gets it. She texted me earlier, knowing what I was walking into tonight. Need backup at the Posey family circus? Across the table, my mother-in-law, Janice, gives me one of her overly sweet smiles, the kind that always feels more like a slap than a hug. Well, Catherine, dear, she starts in that sugary tone that makes my nerves itch. Have you tried those natural remedies I sent you? My yoga instructor swears by them. Maybe if you worked harder on your diet. Patrick tries to jump in. Mom, the doctor said. But, of course, Tyler doesn't let him finish. Doctors are all in Big Pharma's pocket, he declares, waving his hand like he's swatting away a fly. Catherine's young. She should be able to handle this with lifestyle changes. She just needs to try harder. I stay quiet, but my stomach churns. It's always the same. Tyler, whose latest business venture just went belly up, still somehow believes he's an expert on every subject under the sun, including my health. And then there's Mary, Patrick's other sister, who jumps in with her usual unsolicited commentary. Speaking of lifestyle changes, she says, leaning forward, when are you two planning to give me some grandchildren? I'm just a little concerned about Catherine's condition, you know. I mean, wouldn't that affect the babies? Beside me, I feel Patrick stiffen. I can practically hear him grinding his teeth. We're focusing on our careers right now, Mom, he says firmly, cutting the conversation short before it spirals any further. Later that night, Jessica calls me. How bad was it? She asks, skipping the pleasantries because she already knows the answer. I sigh, sitting on the edge of my bed and staring at the closed door. The usual, I say. Tyler practically called me a drug addict. And Mary? Oh, she's worried my defective genes might ruin her future grandkids. Jessica groans on the other end of the line. And Patrick? I glance toward the door, where I know he's probably pacing in frustration, trying to figure out how to make it all better. He tried, I say softly. He always tries. But I think it's starting to get to him, too. I could hear Patrick talking to his mom on the phone from the other room. His voice was calm, but I knew him well enough to pick up on the strain beneath the surface. He was trying as always, but I wasn't sure how much longer he could keep it up. Last month, he actually asked me if I could do my injections in private. Apparently, it makes the family uncomfortable, I told Jessica, my sister, over the phone later that evening. That's messed up, Catherine, Jessica said, her tone sharp with disbelief. This isn't normal. They don't get to question your actual medical condition. Family doesn't mean they can treat you like this. Her words hit home, but the knot in my chest didn't loosen. Tyler is just bitter because he can't keep a business afloat for more than 7 months, Jessica added, her voice laced with frustration. And Mary? She's been enabling his garbage behavior since forever. They're a toxic duo. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. She wasn't wrong, but knowing that didn't make it any easier. I could still hear Patrick finishing up his conversation with his mom, his voice dropping as he muttered something about visiting more often. I've got to go, I said softly, not wanting Patrick to overhear. Thanks for being my sanity check. Always here for you, sis, Jessica said firmly. And Catherine, don't let them make you doubt yourself. You've been handling this disease like a pro for 22nd years. Her words were like a small anchor, keeping me grounded for just a moment longer. As I hung up, Patrick walked into the room, looking troubled. Mom thinks we should come over more, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. She says we're becoming distant. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, the familiar weight of frustration settling on my shoulders. Sometimes, I wonder if this is what family is supposed to feel like, I said quietly. Constantly defending yourself against people who should be the ones supporting you. The next day, something fell off. My sugar readings had been all over the place that week, and it was starting to worry me. Hey, I called Jessica again, needing her voice to steady me. Something's not right. My sugar readings are acting strange. What do you mean? She asked, her concern cutting through the phone line. They've been spiking and crashing in weird ways, I explained. Ever since Tyler started coming over while Patrick's been at his conference, things just feel off. Wait, Tyler's been coming over? Jessica sounded alarmed. Yeah, I said, frowning at the thought. He said he's checking in because there've been break-ins in the neighborhood. Patrick even gave him a spare key. Jessica let out a long breath. Catherine, I don't like this. At all. Are you sure everything's okay? I don't know, I admitted. I'm having security install cameras today, just in case. Later that week, things took a turn for the worse. I was at my desk at work when the room started spinning. My vision blurred, and my head felt heavy, like it was weighed down with cement. Catherine, are you okay? A coworker asked, grabbing my arm when she noticed my shaking hands. I'm fine, I mumbled, though my body said otherwise. My thoughts were jumbled, and I struggled to make sense of anything. With trembling fingers, I managed to pull out my glucometer. That's impossible, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Something was very, very wrong. I whispered faintly, feeling my knees give out beneath me. The rest became a hazy blur, flashes of sirens, paramedics, and blinding hospital lights. Voices around me used words like severe hyperglycemia and could have died. They sounded distant, like they were coming from the other side of a thick wall. When I finally woke up, I was in the ICU. My body felt heavy, and my head throbbed, but the first thing I noticed was Patrick sitting beside me. He was clutching my hand, his face pale and full of anguish. Baby, I'm so sorry, he whispered, his voice breaking. I should have listened. I blinked, trying to make sense of his words. My throat was dry, but I managed to croak. Tyler, what about Tyler? Patrick's face crumpled, and he looked away, like he couldn't bear to meet my eyes. The security footage, he said quietly. Jessica checked it while you were unconscious. Catherine, he's been replacing your insulin with water. The words hit me like a physical blow. I struggled to sit up, my heart monitor beeping erratically as the shock settled in. What? Patrick's hands were trembling as he spoke, his voice low and full of shame. Mom knew. She helped him plan it. For a moment, the room spun, and I thought I might pass out again. No, I whispered, shaking my head. That's not possible. Patrick reached for a tablet on the bedside table, his hands still unsteady. There's video, he said grimly. I didn't want to believe it, but here. He pressed play. On the screen, the footage was crystal clear. Tyler was sneaking into our house, tampering with my insulin cartridges. My stomach twisted as the clip changed to him standing in our kitchen, talking to Mary. She needs to learn, Mary said, her voice cold and unfeeling. Patrick's too blinded by her act to see what she's doing to this family. Tyler chuckled darkly, leaning against the counter. Don't worry, Mom. A few days without her precious insulin, and everyone will see she's been exaggerating this whole time. I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my chest. This wasn't just cruelty. This was calculated. Patrick's hands shook as he turned off the video. His eyes brimmed with tears as he said, I've already called the police. They're reviewing everything. His voice hardened. I'm done with them, Catherine. I chose them over you so many times. But I'm done. They could have killed you. I was too drained to cry, too exhausted to feel anger. But watching Patrick finally confront the truth about his family lifted a weight off my chest that had been crushing me for months, maybe years. The doctor said if Jessica hadn't called when she did, I started, my voice trailing off. I know, Patrick whispered, his face contorted with anguish. I'll never forgive myself for not seeing it sooner, for doubting you. You could have died because I was too weak to stand up to them. Just then, a detective walked into the room, his expression serious. Miss Hahn, he began, his voice professional but grim. During our investigation, something concerning came up in Mr. Posey's background check. Patrick straightened, his posture tense. What kind of something? The detective glanced at his notes. Several complaints from former business partners, he explained. Accusations of sabotage, fraud. That tracks, Patrick muttered bitterly, cutting him off. The detective nodded. We're looking deeper into his connections. This could lead to more charges, but we'll need your cooperation. Patrick leaned forward, his jaw tight. Whatever you need, he said firmly. I watched him, a mix of emotions swirling in my chest. For so long, I had felt like I was fighting this battle alone, but now, for the first time, it felt like I wasn't. The fallout would be messy, I knew that. But as I lay there in the hospital bed, holding Patrick's hand, I realized something important. I had survived. And no matter what came next, I wasn't going to let them take any more from me. The stories had always been whispered, unproven accusations that surrounded Tyler like a cloud. Competitors or colleagues who outshone him suddenly faced bizarre misfortunes, car accidents, mysteriously corrupted files, or equipment failures that derailed their success. It was suspicious, but no one could ever prove anything. Then my phone buzzed with a message that cut through the fog of suspicion. It was from one of Tyler's former business partners. Heard what happened.
He did the same to me.
Sabotaged my car brakes after I refused to sign over my shares. This time, I have proof. My hands shook as I read the text. Before I could process it, Jessica came rushing in, holding a folder. Catherine, you need to see this, she said, flipping through a stack of papers. I got access to some of Mom's and Tyler's financial records. What am I looking at? I asked, my stomach already sinking. These are bank transfers, Jessica explained. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, all funneled into Tyler's failed ventures. Guess where the money's coming from? Patrick, who had been pacing in the corner, froze.
No, he whispered.
Jessica nodded grimly. Dad's accounts. Mom has power of attorney because of his dementia, and she's been helping Tyler siphon money from their own father's savings to cover his losses. Patrick's face crumpled, the weight of betrayal hitting him like a physical blow. They've been stealing from Dad, he said, his voice breaking. Just then, a nurse peeked into the room. Miss Hahn, Tyler Posey is here. He says he wants to apologize. No, I said immediately, my voice stronger than I felt. I don't want to see him, but it was too late. Tyler pushed past the nurse, his eyes red and frantic. Catherine, please, he said, his voice shaking. I never meant. Meant what? I snapped, the fury breaking through my exhaustion. You nearly killed me, Tyler. What exactly were you trying to prove? I just wanted to show everyone the truth, he stammered. Mom convinced me you were exaggerating. That you... Get out, Patrick said, stepping between us. His voice was ice cold. Out before I call security. Come on, Douglas. We're family, Tyler pleaded, his voice desperate. Family? Patrick's voice cracked, and he pointed at me. You tried to murder my wife. And now I find out you've been stealing from Dad, while Mom covered for you. This isn't family, Tyler. It wasn't stealing. Tyler argued, his voice rising. Dad would have wanted to help me succeed. Jessica scoffed from the corner. Like you've helped all your business partners? You've left nothing but failure and wreckage in your wake, Tyler. Tyler's face darkened, and his usual sneer returned. He turned to me, his tone dripping with bitterness. Little Miss Success Story, he spat. You have no idea what it's like to fail. To watch everyone else move forward while you're stuck in the mud. So, yeah, maybe I tried to knock you down a peg. You deserved it. I stared at him, disgusted. Starting with your own father's? I asked, my voice filled with disbelief. Everything I did for this family. Tyler hissed, his face twisted with rage. "No," Patrick said quietly, heartbreak written across his face. "Everything you did for yourself. And Mom let it happen. But it's over now. The police have the footage, the bank records, everything." Tyler lunged forward, but before he could get close, security burst into the room. They grabbed him, dragging him out as he thrashed and shouted, his voice echoing down the hallway. "You'll regret this, Douglas. You're betraying your own blood." When the door finally closed, silence filled the room like a heavy fog. Patrick turned to me, his face broken and full of regret. "I chose wrong, Catherine," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Every time. I let them make me doubt you. I let them make me think I was protecting the family when all I was doing was destroying the one person who's always been there for me." I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "It's over now," I said softly. "We can move forward. Together." For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight on my chest lifted. Patrick's family had tried to tear us apart, but in the end, their actions only made us stronger. I stayed silent for so long, thinking it was the right thing to do, believing it would keep the peace. But now I know better. "I chose wrong," I whisper, my voice firm as I take Patrick's hand. "But never again." We watch through the window as Tyler is led out of the hospital in handcuffs, his face pale and furious. Sometimes karma needs a little help from security cameras and bank records. Later that evening, the breaking news flashes across the TV screen. Local businessman Tyler Posey sentenced to 16 years for elder abuse and investment fraud. I turn up the volume, unable to resist watching as my former brother-in-law is escorted into a police van. Satisfaction settles in as the reporter recounts his crimes, stealing from his father's accounts, sabotaging business partners, and putting my life at risk. For the first time in a long time, justice feels real. Just then, my phone rings. It's Mary. "Catherine, please," she says, her voice frail and desperate. "The family's falling apart. Tyler's wife left with the kids. The country club revoked our membership. Everyone's talking about us." I lean back against the couch, letting her words wash over me. "Sounds like consequences to me," I say evenly. "Can't you ask Patrick to speak to us?" she pleads. "His father keeps asking for him." I scoff, shaking my head. "Oh, you mean the father you helped steal from? That's rich." Before Mary can respond, my phone buzzes with a notification. It's an email. My eyes light up as I read the subject line aloud. "Guess who just made department head?" I grin, cutting Mary off mid-sentence. "You're talking to the youngest marketing director in company history," I announce, feeling a swell of pride. "Look at you thriving while they're diving," Jessica texts me a second later. I can't help but laugh as I read it aloud. "And by the way," I add, turning back to Mary, "my diabetes advocacy group just got featured in the Times."
Did you know that?
Mary's voice trembles on the other end of the line. "Catherine, I have a life to live. One that doesn't involve people who tried to kill me," I say, my tone sharp. "We never meant it, Catherine. Please," she begs, her desperation more evident now. "The social services investigation is ruining us. Can't you just tell them it was a misunderstanding?" "A misunderstanding? You mean like how Tyler misunderstood his way into his father's bank account?" I snap. "Or how you misunderstood those forged signatures?" I take a deep breath, feeling the finality of the moment settle over me. "Here's the thing, Mary. Families should forgive, but families shouldn't try to murder each other. Goodbye." I hang up, exhaling slowly as the weight of their toxicity lifts just a little more. A car horn sounds outside, and I smile as I see Patrick pulling up to pick me up for dinner. Sliding into the passenger seat, I turn to him. "Tyler's sentencing was today," I say. 17 years. Patrick nods, his expression grim. "Dad's nursing home called," he says after a moment. "He's doing better now that he's away from them. Actually remembering things again." "Funny how that happens," I reply, my voice light but knowing. As we drive off, I feel a sense of closure. The scars from what they did might never fully heal, but they don't control me anymore. My life is my own, and for the first time in years, it feels like it's headed exactly where it's meant to go. It's amazing how peaceful life feels when no one's trying to drug you or steal your money. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Mary. Please, Catherine. Everyone's abandoned us. The church committee asked me to step down. Tyler's wife won't let us see the grandkids. I show the message to Patrick. He doesn't even bother reading it. With a calm, deliberate motion, he deletes it and hands my phone back. You know what's crazy? I say, glancing at the TV, where the news is recapping Tyler's epic downfall. They really thought they'd get away with it, all of it. They always did before. Dad's money, Mom's influence, there were never any consequences. Patrick nods silently, his expression pensive. But then they messed with the wrong diabetic, I add with a small smile. A message pops up from Jessica, and I can't help but chuckle. She sent me a photo of Mary, leaving the social services building, hiding her face from reporters. No more charity galas. No more social clubs, I say aloud, showing Patrick the photo. Just a lonely woman, stripped of her illusion of control and respect. Patrick doesn't respond, but I catch the faintest hint of a smirk on his face. Ready for dinner? He asks, grabbing his keys. That new place downtown? I smile back at him. Yeah, just let me check my insulin, my real, untampered insulin. As we leave, I glance at the TV one last time. The images flash across the screen. Tyler in handcuffs, Mary looking utterly disgraced, and the faces of their victims. People who finally got the justice they deserved. And then there's me. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm thriving. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't what you do to toxic people. It's living your best life while karma does the heavy lifting. But it does make me wonder, what would you do if you found out your own family was gaslighting you about your health? Would you press charges immediately? Or would you gather evidence first, like I did? And here's something to think about. Was Patrick partly responsible for enabling his family's behavior by staying silent for so long? Should he have noticed the red flags sooner? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever dealt with betrayal from family members who were supposed to protect you? Did you cut ties completely? Or did you try to salvage the relationship? Share your stories in the comments below. Sometimes, the best way to heal is by finding strength in each other's experiences.